Hi, my name is Talesian, and today I'd like to cover just the basics of crafting for the new Necropolis League. In my opinion, first starting off, I think this league is very much solo and casual friendly. As I go through here, you will see that a lot of the things that I do, they actually encourage you to explore the maps more, gather more corpses, and to think about what you're doing. Also, please note that this is as of middle of April, and GGG can always change things as they go forward. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. First things is that you would get a lantern when you hit the coast in Act 1. Now the lantern is given to you by the caretaker, and as you zone in through the game, using manual zoning in, not when you zone in through the waypoints, you will see this icon here on the screen. Here you get to peer into the Lantern of Aramor and see what spirits are affecting the zone that you're in. And when you click on it, you'll see a box that's like this that'll appear. The box basically has on it the different monsters. As you can see, it'll show you the pack size, their density, what types they are. It'll also show you the percentage chance of finding corpse and all flame members, which I'll explain in a moment. And then these are the different modifiers to them. Now the nice thing about these is that you can move them around. So for instance, if you have a modifier that say gives a mob more ranged weapon attacks, if you move it to a mob that has no ranged weapon attacks, you've basically negated that mod. Also, there are mods that will show up and the text instead of blue will be orange. What that means is that that's a positive one for you. Those could be things like mobs can drop extra currencies, or one of the highlights that I found, not very often, is mobs that will drop the Nameless Seer. Basically, when you clear the last mob of that zone, the Nameless Seer will appear, and you will get a free artifact of choice from whatever he randomly appears. Now, I also mentioned a bit about all flames. As you can see here, there's a chance of finding corpses in all flames. If you hit this button here, which shows your inventory screens, this is where you keep your all flames at, either the ones from your main inventory or the ones from your Necropolis locker. What these will do is, as you use them, they will modify the mobs that are within there. For instance, this all flame member of Meat Sacks, if I were to go ahead and take it and drag it here, now all of a sudden these are one-size pack monsters that have greatly increased life, and they've become meat sacks instead of what was there before. So this way you can sort of change the mobs that are in each zone as you come to them, as you get more of these all flames. I've traveled a little bit, adventured some, and here's an example of how one of the positive modifiers you can see. In this case, if I were to kill any of these, there's a 3% chance to drop an additional Orb of Alteration. Adventuring further on, I've actually found a corpse. Now this is an example of one of the corpses that you'll find. Here it shows you the name, what the corpse level is, which will be important for crafting later on, what type it is, and then any modifiers that may come from it. And again, when I go over the basics of crafting, I'll explain that a little further. There's also a button here that if you don't wish it to become part of your mortuary, you can turn around and it'll automatically be filled into a coffin for you. And here's an example of the Undertaker that's coming by to take the corpse away. And you get a little bit of a text here. And there's the Undertaker Aramor, the one who gives you the lantern at the very beginning of the game. Now once you've gotten some corpses, this is where you will actually use them and do the crafting. This is the graveyard. Now the graveyard is made up of several sections. First off, the building over here to the north is the morgue. All of your corpses are here. You can turn them into coffins, or you can turn around and cremate them as well, because there's only a limit of 64 corpses that you can have in your storage. You've got a stash here, the waypoint, the Undertaker, who is also a vendor and can give you some quest items as well. And then here's the heart of the graveyard. All of the questing options. Now let me explain to you basically how to craft something in Necropolis. What you do is you'll click on an open grave, and then the list of all of all of the corpses that you have will show here. And what you do is you want to combine them. For instance, if you're looking for, say, a mage wand, but you don't really want a whole lot of certain modifiers on it, there are certain corpses that, for instance, have a chance, an increased or decreased chance of certain types of modifiers. So you can sort of basically deterministic craft some of the items you want. There's also ones here, like here, fire monsters. Fire modifiers are 300% scare, so if you don't want fire on there, you can turn around and add that, and you can add multiples of those, and it increases the percentage. I'll explain that in a moment, too. Life modifiers are 300 scare. Another one that's a good one to have down here toward the bottom, plus 50 to the modifier tier, plus 1 to minimum number of linked sockets, up to a number maximum of 4 or 5 if you're working on body armors. So for example, let's say I was going to work on a wand. So I would probably start with a 5% quality up to 30%. So I'll go ahead and use that corpse and I'll bury it. Now, if you'll notice, any of the corpses that are adjacent to it will also be affected by the same crafting mechanism. And if you don't like what you've done, you can remove the corpse, but once you've buried it, understand that once you remove it, the corpse is destroyed. So let's say, for instance, I have the +5 quality, and I want to add another craft to it. Since I do with a lot of lightning, I'm going to go ahead and add 2 of these increased chance of lightning modifiers. So we'll add 1 and 2. So this gives me a very good chance of lightning modifiers because I tend to use arc. That's just a personal choice. We'll add another corpse. We'll go ahead and we'll say that fire modifiers are scarcer, because I don't really need a whole lot of fire damage on my wand. And then for the last one, we will go ahead and we will add a +1 to minimum number of linked sockets up to a maximum of 4. Then as you can see, I have all of my corpses buried. And then once you have them all buried and you like them, you choose the craft. This is where this screen comes up where you get to choose what type of armor, weapons, or jewelry you want. Now the thing to remember about this is that the corpse levels, as you can see, they've got a lowest of 23 and a highest of 50. The corpse levels determine the final result, as in the type of item that you have. So since I have a corpse level of 23, if I go to wands, I'm only going to be able to get up to a convening wand. If I had higher level ones, I would be able to get a higher level. But we'll go ahead and use the convening ones as I deal with minions anyway. And then this shows all the modifiers that you're going to use, what type of rarity it is, the item level, which is an average of the ones you used before, and how many implicit modifiers there are. There are also corpses that can modify the number of explicit modifiers to a corpse. So let's go ahead and exercise it and create an item. And there's the item that I got. Minions increase damage, reduced attribute requirements, adds 117 lightning damage, and adds 1 to 33 lightning damage to spells, and a 12 increased mana weight, and 2 link sockets. Now there's one other thing to remember as you're going around and collecting corpses. And I'm going to go over to the other side of the graveyard to show you this. There are some times that you'll have corpses, and they will show you that they are from a certain named person. For instance, I've got one haunted by Claudia Varuso, Lilius Nivalis, Octavius Nivalis, Marius Nivalis, and Julianus Nivalis. Now I'll include a link at the end of this video, but here's what the link shows you. This is part of the PoEwiki.net. Basically, it shows you that if you have all the corpses of a certain type, in this case Lilius, Octavius, Marius, and Julius Nivalis, you could turn around. As you can see, I have Lucius, Octavius, Marius, and Julius. Let's go ahead and plant those 4 corpses right now. So we'll bury Lilius, Octavius, Marius, and Julius. And we'll go ahead and craft. This time you only come up with a specific item. In this case, I'm going to be getting a unique, and this one's going to be item level 48. So let's go ahead and exercise it and see what we get. And this time I got the Nivalius Inheritance Cloth Belt. Increased stun and block recovery, dexterity, flask duration. Flask provide you have an additional reduced effect, but they have a 2% reduced effect per level, but they also have flasks also have a 1% increased effect per level. So it's kind of good and bad in this case. But if you have all the corpses for a certain family type, you can get items like this. And that's the basics of crafting in the Necropolis. Now today is August the 17th, and I'm going to go ahead and log on this afternoon onto Twitch around 4 p.m. or so, and I'm going to be playing some more Path of Exile. So if you're interested, and I'll be teaching more, and if you're interested in learning more, please come by. Have a good day.